Singapore nabbed second place in CoinDesk's Crypto Hub rankings this year, which outlines the best places to live freely and work smart in the Web3 and blockchain space. Joining us now to discuss is the founder and CEO of staking access startup RockX, Zhuling Chen. Welcome to the show, Zhuling.
Hi, good morning, Jen. Thank you for having me. Hi, Lawrence.
Hey, good morning.
Thanks for taking the time to join us. This is your second crypto startup in Singapore. Talk to us about the environment in Singapore.
Yeah, so, actually Singapore has a long history of crypto, right? So even in 2016 and 17, there are already a couple of companies running crypto natively in Singapore. And if you look at the current situation in Singapore, I would say, first of all, the regulation side is still relatively free and supportive. And the government actually do not want to treat Singapore as a financial hub, but also take blockchain as a technology where you see a big community of NFTs. You also see DeFi. You see other types of layer one and other technology around crypto. So we really like this diversity of focuses in Singapore. And Singapore being a city nation, it's just so efficient to meet people and just exchange ideas and talk about collaborations.
Zhuling, Terraform Labs and 3AC were based in Singapore. How has the collapse of those two firms affected the environment? How has that affected how regulators are looking at crypto companies in the jurisdiction?
Yeah, so what happened last year was definitely unfortunate. I think it was an alert to everyone, both to the government and also to people that were embracing the innovations, but at the same time, now they really need to ask them about, okay, are we really doing our risk management right? So I think from last year, Singapore government has indeed trying to impose more risk management, especially on the retail side. And also the whole community is taking some time to heal the wound. But if you look at the general sentiment this year, I think people has already moved on, right? So people are building new things, but of course they have learned based on what happened last year.
Now we're looking in the U.S. at more regulation, or at least some regulatory crackdown by the Securities and Exchange Commission on exchanges, centralized exchanges. How is the approach of the United States different than how Singapore approaches and how the Monetary Authority of Singapore licenses things? If you could kind of give a big, broad brushstroke of all of this stuff.
Yeah. First of all, I think the big difference here is that the Singapore government is trying to give guidelines and licenses, but not taking enforcement yet, right? Of course, in between they have given some directives saying that, okay, no advertisements to the retail market, etc. But we do think that this is a quite constructive way of doing things. We know what is the rule, we play by the rule, and if there are any changes, we follow that. Whereas right now, I think in US, people are taking aback because there is a possibility that enforcement are taken without giving more directives or clear guidelines. From our perspective, we do think that, okay, we feel more clear and secure to operate business in Singapore right now.
We've seen crypto hubs really thrive where the builders are. What can you tell us about the developer communities in Singapore?
Yeah, so even in 2017, when I went to a Ethereum meetup in Singapore, we're already talking about 50 to 100 people, and even 200 people show up if Vitalik is around. And actually, right before taking this call, we were we are hosting the Polkadot Decoded event viewing party in Singapore, where over 50 people showed up. So Singapore does have a pretty big community, especially for the developer side, and we see a good mix of developers who are coming from TradFi, coming from internet companies, and also from security companies. Yeah, so this is something that we don't really see that big of a mix in 17 or 18. And of course, this also is a very positive sign of how the whole market has developed.
Why do you think that Singapore embraced Ethereum so early? That developers in Singapore took to Ethereum? What is it about either Ethereum or what is it about Singapore's development culture that led them to say, let's try this or that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think first of all, if you look at the early projects for Ethereum, so one of the early ones was in fact from Singapore. So that is DGX Global. So that project started in 2016. So did help to cultivate a huge community in Singapore. And Vitalik and some of the Ethereum Foundation guys used to spend a lot of time in Singapore because the Singapore government even invited them back in 17 and 18 to talk to the government, to talk to MAS, to educate them. So by having all those key people around Singapore for a long time, that does help a lot. And if you look at this ICO boom in 2017, Singapore was considered as one of the countries that has a clear regulation on ICOs. Hence, a lot of companies moved or considered having their legal entity in Singapore. So I think that is another boost for Singapore. Then during DeFi time, we also see that some of the pioneers were from Singapore, so that helped to even push the community to an even better place.
All right, Zhuling, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us this morning. That was the founder and CEO of RockX, Zhuling Chen. Don't miss our Twitter Spaces happening at 11 a.m. Eastern Time today on the top crypto hubs of 2023.